You know the exact opposite of a hag?
What?
Al Pacino.
The most virile man in America.
Yes, because he's having a new baby, and he's the oldest man on the planet.
Hello, welcome to Guide to the Unknown. I'm Kristen.
And I'm her little brother, William.
And this week, we are creeping into your sleep with the Hat Man and Hags.
The Hat Man.
Oops. The Hat Man and Hags.
Yeah. The Hat Man and Hags. They go together.
They really do.
They genuinely do. We've talked about the Hat Man before.
Yeah.
And the Hat Man seems to have really taken on a life of his own.
We're going back to the well, partially because we enjoy revisiting topics from when we like split things up in a different way and we didn't necessarily give everything a ton of time. But also, I wrote an article about the Hat Man that is based on what we talked about in that episode.
Episode 39, by the way.
Thank you.
The Hat Man and the Kraken.
Of course.
We're not going to set the record straight and revisit the Hat Man and Hags.
Yes, that's right. But so I have this article up on Medium. It's at medium.com/@chillinkristen, and then you could like scroll and find it or whatever. But so when you have stuff up on Medium, they send you a weekly wrap up on Fridays that shows you how many people read something. And there have been like months where I don't even get a weekly wrap because nobody's read anything that I did. For the last, I don't know, I'm guessing 2 months, I've been getting it every week with like 500 reads of it, 400 reads of it. Like, a ton of people are looking into the Hat Man right now and have for years.
Yeah.
Like this has happened sporadically over the last few years. And so I told Will maybe we should strike while the Hat Man is hot.
Yes, and I think it's absolutely correct to do so. People will not have a hard time finding your article.
Yeah.
It is the 5th result if you just Google the Hat Man.
Wow, I never thought to do that. Okay, that makes sense.
You'll find it quite easily. You're one of the prime sources for Hat Man news.
I'm the foremost Hat Man. Actually, I've written 2 Hat Man articles because I did this just based on our silly thing for Medium. And then I wrote one for our former job.
Don't say the word. It might make people vomit.
No, I won't. For a place that Will and I both worked that
Killer.
Sucks. And, and yeah, so it was like a more formal, like more serious article. And the headline of that appeared on Ancient Aliens.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
I did too until I was saying it out loud.
Your commentary on the Hat Man is legend.
Yes, it is.
It's on Ancient Aliens.
I am the foremost expert on the Hat Man.
Why am I covering this? So what we did, we talked about it, and I was like, Kristen's gone to the Hat Man, well, a couple of different ways. Let's see what happens if I go in and revisit and get some of it's, I'm going to catch people up on conventional hat lore. I do have some new tidbits.
Great.
And I have a whole lot of encounters.
Great.
I have enough encounters till the cows come home.
To fill a hat to the brim.
That's right.
Yeah.
Some of which are from your work. I have quotes. You're one of my sources.
I don't remember this.
You're one of my sources, and you are one of my fonts of experiences because people have been commenting on your articles.
Yeah.
Leaving their experiences for years.
Are there comments on the Hack one?
Oh, yeah. Like a lot.
Oh, I think I've never looked.
Like a lot.
See, the Medium emails me, so I think, oh, interesting. Okay, great.
The Hunt to Killer one does quite nicely.
Great.
You'd think that they'd want to keep doing that sort of thing.
You would think.
Anyway.
But they don't.
Anyway, we shan't and can't talk about that.
No.
So let's instead...
We have an NDA from HAK.
That's very true. So let's talk about the Hat Man.
Yes.
He comes to you when you're most vulnerable, lying in bed, drifting off to sleep. He may appear so silently and suddenly, you wonder how long he's been watching you. And you'll recognize him the way countless others have described his appearance. He's a shadow being. It looks as if he's composed entirely of darkness, from the soles of his feet to the hat on his head. The Hat Man wears many hats. Literally!
Yikes!
From you. Usually a top hat, fedora, or a gaucho.
Yeah, I kind of remember that.
Like a cowboy.
Yeah.
I like to imagine, this is me speaking, I like to imagine that he's experimented with every kind of hat.
Why wouldn't he?
Occasionally throws on a backwards baseball cap.
A Kangol.
Just feels it.
I know we talked about that recently.
Now, what the hell's a Kangol?
When I said this to you last time, you said, I don't have cankles.
Yeah.
A Kangol hat, Kangol, is like, it was popular for a while. It kind of looks like a newsboy cap, but you wear it backwards and it has the Kangol logo. And Samuel L. Jackson often wore, I don't know if he still does, but used to wear them a lot, like in the 90s.
As does Joey Pantalone.
Yes, exactly.
So maybe he's worn a Kangol.
Maybe.
Who's to say? So why has he come? He's come to your room in the night to watch you sleep or to watch you struggle. Essentially, it seems as if he visits people who are experiencing some form of sleep paralysis, which is a common, real thing. Essentially, when you're sleeping, your body locks you down. You literally cannot move while you're in REM sleep.
Yeah.
So if you're running in your dream, your body's not running in the sheets and you don't fall out of your bed.
Right.
Right. And probably goes all the way back to like a survival instinct of like, you don't run out of the cave and get eaten by a dinosaur.
Yeah, probably.
We all know cavemen and dinosaurs.
Oh, like this.
They're
Simpatico.
like this. Simpatico. So your body is locked down, but your eyes open up and there he is, sometimes standing in the corner, sometimes watching you via a mirror, which is so removed, it's extra creepy to me.
Yeah.
Modern lore says that he sometimes has glowing red eyes.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes he might be almost face to face with you, bent forward, craning over you, staring into your pained, terrified face.
What is causing you the pain and terror? You can
Looking at the Hat Man and not being able to move.
You're awake and looking at him.
Almost as if he has done this to you.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And so
I literally like barely remember this.
This is I'm
not asking fake questions.
You are, but I still will say the foremost authority. Your work is storied.
I agree, and yet I don't know anything about it.
Nobody does.
No.
That's part of the problem with the Hat Man. This is one of those things for me where it's somewhat like the Mothman, right? We've also talked about the Mothman. Feel free to go through the archives.
Yeah, and we revisited the Mothman as well.
We did. You're right. The Mothman is one of those figures that people really love and seem to rally around.
Yeah.
And then I've looked into him multiple times and kind of gone like, I don't get it.
I know.
I don't really understand it's cool that he's a big monster man.
Right.
But I don't understand I'm a lore lover. I'm a writer. I like to see the rules for how things operate.
Yeah.
And the Hat Man is very, very similar where, to your point, people seem to really be energized by this legend of the Hat Man watching you sleep. And yeah, it's kind of cool, but there's so little there, really.
Right. I mean, I guess with the Hat Man, it sounds like people have experienced things and so that's what it is. It's not necessarily the lore.
Yes.
But just that this is something they've actually had an encounter with. So then they're like looking for more information about it. And with the Mothman, what I guess, because I do really like the Mothman, but I agree, there's not like a ton going on. I think the Mothman is almost like a gateway to other cryptids and stuff, because I would argue that it's like the most popular cryptid besides like Sasquatch or something like that.
Yeah.
So you kind of hear about the Mothman, learn about that. You're like, wow, this is a really cool, weird thing. I've never thought about this sort of stuff. And so it kind of sticks. And then as you learn about other things, it's cool, but it doesn't have the same cachet as your first.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that's a really good point. And with so many people sharing their stories, I think that helps it proliferate further. So there are plenty of TikToks of people talking about the Hat Man, sharing Hat Man lore. Funnily enough, we, Guide to the Unknown, have done a TikTok where we did the Hat Man in 1 minute.
Yeah.
So we've gone to the well several times, but there is something that makes you want to look again. There is something about it that's sort of like ephemerally compelling.
Yeah.
So one of the things that people say, what's his motivation? Why? Okay, so he stares at you. That's
like, why?
Creepy, but what's he doing? Is he getting something out of this?
Yeah.
One of the things people say is that he is essentially feeding on your fear. I have a quote from a storied author here about him feeding upon your fear.
I bet she, I'm assuming, is very smart and also gorgeous.
And a little weird and goofy. So here's what a writer once said about the Hat Man feeding on fear. Your bedroom is his demonic gas station. And baby, you're super unleaded.
Oh my God.
That's in your article. That's
stupid. That's in my goofy article, not the one I was paid to do for Hunt to Killer, correct?
Yes, that's in the Goofy one, but the Goofy one is the one that comes up
That's
fifth.
the big one, yeah.
The Goofy one is wonderful.
Thank you.
The title of it was great. The Hat Man. What's this shadow person got under his cap?
I do like that. It's good.
It's a great line.
Thank you.
It's a great line.
Thank you very much.
So feeding on fear is also something that has recurred a lot in other sort of figures in horror. I would say one of the big ones would be Pennywise.
Yep.
So Stephen King's It, there's this confusing thing of how Pennywise, the clown, the dancing clown, is deliberately trying to scare children.
Right.
Because it's like salting the meat. That's the line given about it.
It's a great line.
It's like, it's a great line.
Yeah.
It's fun to eat you. I got to eat you for sustenance, I guess. But don't you want to put a little flavor on the meat?
Yeah.
Let's put some
that
salt on the
flavor is
meat.
Fear.
Make it taste even better, and that flavor is your fear.
Yeah.
So Pennywise is incentivized to scare you as much as possible before he eats you. But there's a weird thing, right? With Pennywise, it's like, okay, well, when is the meat salted enough?
Yeah,
like, are you going to eat me now?
Yeah.
You've been scaring me for a long time.
It seems like it's enough. I guess just when he's hungry enough.
Ambiguous ticking clock. Hard to tell what's going on.
Yeah.
With the Hat Man, I would say it's almost simpler in an appealing kind of way.
Dawn?
He doesn't necessarily do anything to you.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like he's going to eat you. It's not even dawn, necessarily. You're lying in bed, frozen with fear, and the Hat Man is standing in the corner watching you. Sometimes it's said that he'll glance down at a golden pocket watch, indicating that time is of some substance to the Hat Man that is confusing. Maybe to your point, maybe it is like he's like, I better get out of here before sunrise. Maybe if he's made a shadow.
Right.
Shadow's enemy is sunlight, right?
Yes, it is.
As we all learned in school, the enemy of shadows is sunlight. I remember my third grade teacher telling that to me every day.
It's true. It's true.
But so like, is he like, I better get out of here to a certain point? There's not a definitive answer on when enough is enough. But instead of eating you or killing you, he'll just leave.
I guess he's just sucking fear like a dementor.
And a few people who have experiences that I've written down or read have described him very similarly to a Dementor from Harry Potter. Like it felt like he was sucking my soul out of my mouth. But at a certain point, it's decided according to some ambiguous internal mechanism of the Hat Man.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm done. I'm full.
And he doesn't dissipate into nothingness. He often strolls right out the door.
Right.
There is such an oddity to this. I love the idea of the Hat Man as a figure that you almost realize has been there for who knows how long.
Yeah.
It feels like a home invasion.
Yeah.
It feels as if maybe he came in through the door, you just didn't hear or notice him.
Yeah, you noticed him at this time, but how long has he been there? You didn't see him come in.
It's very interesting. It is very eerie. And the fact that it is so ambiguous, I think, lends to a lot of people talking about their theories or wanting to spread the legend because there's almost no closure on it.
Right.
We're still working on it.
Yeah.
And we've done a lot of talking about urban legends on the show. And I have this feeling about the Hat Man is not, I think, classically an urban legend, so to speak, according to the original textbook.
I don't know.
It's close to
what you would call it.
Close to like a cryptid type of thing, I think. But I think that we often tell stories like the babysitter and the man upstairs. The call's coming from inside the house. Ah!
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe the first time someone told that story, the call wasn't coming from inside the house. It was just a babysitter was calling for help. No one believed her. She ended up dead.
Yeah.
But then someone telling the story just to their friends around a campfire gave that perfect twist.
Yeah.
And then it was set in stone. That's the story. And everyone agrees. That's
because
the story.
It was so good.
Because it's so perfect.
Yeah, like why would you not just be like, I got to tell somebody about this, and then it starts to become cemented.
And with everybody telling the story of the Hat Man, I'm just going to go ahead and say, starting with you.
Yes, I'm going to say it too.
Are we going to keep telling each other the story of the Hat Man until somebody concocts the wrinkle that gives it a satisfying overall motivation, rules, here's how you defeat him, conclusion, a story thing that makes us all then bundle it up and go, bam.
This is the one. This is now the Hat Man version of the babysitter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the legend now.
You do it.
Well, it doesn't work if you want to do it. It works because people just keep loving the story. story.
I know.
You can't control it.
Damn.
And that's something that I love about folklore and like this like social storytelling.
I know.
Humans as social creatures that just we love to dwell on scary stuff because it's cathartic.
And it's exciting.
It's exciting.
It's enticing, you
Yes.
know? Like we like mystery.
And that
Even when we
feeling-
don't, we do like it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And who cannot relate to the idea of it being dark, the middle of the night, you woke up, you don't even know what time it is.
Yeah.
And you're like, what is going on? And oh my God, how scary would it be if there was someone in the room?
Yeah, totally.
This is like a perfect campfire story.
Yes.
Like, you know, not everybody can be sitting on Lover's Lane and have the hook hand attack them.
But most people are sleeping in bed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so it's just so relatable. It's like universal.
Yeah, totally.
And is there anything
That, like, fear of
scarier
the dark.
than the dark?
Yeah.
A shadow person is the dark.
Right. They're blending right into it. Maybe you see just the vaguest shape.
Yes.
And you're like, what the hell is that?
And so we come to the hat.
Yeah.
What?
It really does all come back to the hat.
Why
though,
is he the
'cause
Hat Man?
That's the distinguishing characteristic. Besides
Right.
that, he's a shadow person, which is a thing in and of itself, but he's like a very specific genre of
Yes.
shadow person. And I say he, but is it a singular he?
Sure.
Or it is a group? Is this like a species of shadow person?
Yes. Are they the Hat Men?
The different hats would indicate to me, perhaps.
The Hatman.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great point, Kristen. Every time he was seen in a different hat, it was actually a different guy.
Right, exactly. They had different hat preferences. I don't know if this guy, when he leaves for the night, is do I want the gaucho or do I want the pork pie tonight? No, it's a guy.
What-
who's
I want
got
that-
a hat.
I want that wicker hat that like the Music Man wears. What's that? You know, like how am I feeling? How am I feeling tonight?
What is that called? I don't know.
Which hat feels like me tonight? Well,
Yeah.
here's the other thing. If you're only a shadow,
Right.
like you don't have a face, the only
True.
thing you can do to distinguish yourself is change your silhouette.
The hat is all you got.
The hat's all you got.
Yeah.
Maybe they tried shoes for a while and people didn't really notice them.
Right, they're too low.
Big clown shoes or a high saucy heel.
Yeah.
You know, like, and then the hat. He was like, most people are drawn to. They look at my head.
They look up.
Let's change the hat.
Yeah.
I've tried. I do not have a great reason for the hat.
No one does. We don't know.
I would have
It's
to.
a supernatural entity.
Yes, I'd have to imagine that it might have something to do with this image of like the Men in Black. Right?
Yeah.
So like the Men in Black, not just Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones,
Mm-hmm.
but like the folkloric Men in Black, the urban legend conspiracy theory Men in Black,
Yep.
who, oh my gosh, these guys show up at almost like the Mothman. They show up at different catastrophes. Are they aliens? Are they the CIA?
Mm-hmm. They're like the cleanup crew.
It evokes that feeling of like a spy with the collar of his, raincoat turned up and his hat pulled low.
Yep. Like
is
Inspector
it-
Gadget.
like an Inspector Gadget type. The Men in Black is like this institutional kind of thing, or just like an otherworldly creature pretending to be human.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the best I can figure, but that's just pure conjecture.
Yeah, they're like, oh, the humans wear these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's a
here's
cool idea.
Here's some information that I found that was like, wait, hold on a second now.
Yeah.
You'll understand in just a second. I'm going to just tell you what I encountered.
Okay.
While trying to Google like a potential starting point for the Hat Man, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you can, like Slender Man, who was one of these kind of like internet figures that took the world by storm. But there's an actual place you can point to and go like, oh, this is when somebody invented him.
Right.
I was wondering, is there something like that for the Hat Man?
Yeah.
So I went digging around and I found a Rolling Stone article that was behind a paywall that I couldn't read. But the headlines were like, from a joke about Benadryl to an internet craze, the story of the Hat Man.
Yeah.
I was like, Benadryl?
I mean, a lot of people take Benadryl to go to sleep,
Okay.
like as a de facto sleeping pill.
So I almost thought, was there like,
I don't know if that was the right use of de facto, but anyway.
you know how brands on the internet, like,
If Benadryl made it go viral.
yeah, like Benadryl posted about like seeing a Hat Man when you sleep, 5 years ago and everyone loved it.
That'd be amazing.
Because like you can't go on the internet now without Pop-Tarts being like, what you up to, bae? And you're
Yeah,
like,
I know.
I don't know, man. You're Pop-Tarts. You're not my friend. But so like, did Benadryl somehow invent the Hat Man?
I like that.
There's a darkness. There's a darkness here. I don't have the definitive answer.
Yeah, what
but
are you gonna
here's
do?
the Benadryl connection. There's actually a whole page on drugs.com about this. The Hat Man is a fictional figure that started appearing on certain internet sites in the early 2000s that has recently been referred to as the Benadryl Hat Man.
Yeah, this is ringing a bell.
It's like specifically
It's like branded.
It's like it's like he's like a NASCAR driver.
Yeah.
And maybe on the brim of his hat there's a logo for Benadryl. Like
Or a bunch of little pills. You know how sometimes there'll be a hat that has like a ribbon, it's got like puka shells on it or something?
Yes.
Just little Benadryls.
Little Benadryls, you're absolutely right. But this happened, calling him the Benadryl Hat Man came after reports of people hallucinating and citing him after overconsumption or abuse of Benadryl happened. So essentially, people medically evoked the feeling of sleep paralysis or hallucination.
Yeah.
And one of the things people hallucinated was the Hat Man.
Interesting.
Now, is that
open and shut?
If we're buying the Hat Man as a paranormal figure,
right,
is he summoned much in the same way he arrives to people who are sleeping, but trapped in this liminal between wake and sleeping world? And the Benadryl like cracks open the door for him to come to you too.
Yeah.
Or what I think, what is frankly more compelling to me, whether he's a real paranormal thing or not, as the celebratory skeptic that I am,
of course,
stories of the Hat Man have been going around for so long that people who are hallucinating that thing they heard about.
Yeah, right.
Right? So in a weird way, he's almost like a tulpa.
Absolutely.
We made him up, but by making him up and talking about him to each other as the social creatures we are, we have made him a real phenomenon for people who are hallucinating or are experiencing some sort of sleep, night terror.
Right. A thought form, an egregore.
He's real now.
Yeah, we made him real because of our collective consciousness.
Because people are afraid of him. We talk about him.
Yeah, I love that line of thinking.
Right? So the Hat Man has also been associated with the abuse of mind-altering substances taken to excess. There's even a mini documentary about him being associated with sleep paralysis on YouTube. High doses of Benadryl can cause heart arrhythmias, delirium, psychosis, seizures, coma, and death. We're going to talk a little bit about death. Because there's a Wikipedia page for the
death.
The Benadryl challenge.
Oh my God.
Now there are some jokes out there. I've seen some memes that
never heard of
quite frankly made me laugh. Where they were like, I'm going to do the Benadryl challenge. I'm going to have sex with the Hat Man.
I have to say, somebody in the chat, Maggie in our chat, because I mentioned we record live, it's at youtube.com/@GTTUpod every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So there are people watching and chatting. And Maggie said, one of my favorite TikToks is, I can't use Benadryl to go to sleep because I owe the Hat Man money.
Yes.
So yeah, the Benadryl really is more instrumental to the Hat Man than I remembered.
And Maggie said the joke right. I can't use Benadryl to go to sleep because I owe the Hat Man money.
What did you say?
No, I told you a different thing that I heard that made me laugh.
Yeah.
I'm going to take Benadryl.
Oh, so I can have sex with the Hat Man.
Sex with the Hat Man, which is very, very funny.
It's really funny.
But people are sharing this I owe the Hat Man money joke, but it's not a good joke the way it's written. Maggie said it right. The one that's all over the place, if you look up Hat Man memes, and it's like sold on shirts all over the place.
You know what? You're reminding me when the Hat Man thing that I wrote, the headline was on Ancient Aliens. I told my therapist about it. Like we were just talking about what happened this week, and I was like, oh, this weird thing. And I remember she said something about a Benadryl joke. She was like, oh yeah, I've seen something about that because she
I had never heard the Benadryl connection.
I forgot that, but I remember her. She said something. She knew who it was or what it was, and I was like, why do you know that? Do you like this stuff? And she was like, well, yeah, I do. But also there's this thing that's going around about Benadryl and whatever.
So here's the way the Benadryl joke is written on a bunch of shirts that people are trying to sell on Redbubble or whatever. The joke as written is, I can't take Benadryl because I owe the Hat Man money and I don't want to see him.
Oh God, that's so long. This is way better what Maggie wrote. I can't use Benadryl to go to sleep because I owe the Hat Man money.
Done.
Boom, boom,
Period.
boom. Yeah.
And I don't want to see him. Doesn't belong there.
No.
It's already implied you would see him.
Right.
It's redundant.
It's done.
And clunky.
You finished it.
Redbubble deserves better. I don't know. Maybe we'll make a Guide to the Unknown.
Poor Redbubble.
The right Hat Man joke.
Yeah, right.
Anyway. So that is, in a nutshell, that's sort of like the newer Hat Man stuff, is the Benadryl challenge.
Delightful.
Which emerged around 2020, revolving around the deliberate consumption, excessive use, and overdose of Benadryl. Now, people
Yeah,
have...
I really didn't know about that.
So the thing was like, do the Benadryl challenge and you'll hallucinate.
Yeah.
And the offshoot of that was, do the Benadryl challenge, take a bunch of Benadryl, and you'll see the Hat Man.
Yeah.
So he wasn't the centerpiece. The centerpiece was, it's a drug and you'll hallucinate and get high.
Right.
But he was sort of part of the joke of take a bunch of Benadryl and you're going to see the Hat Man.
I wonder if there are people who, so like the joke is, and if anybody actually did it or whatever, it's like you're taking a bunch of Benadryl and something screwed up is going to happen.
Yeah.
I wonder if there are people who are like paranormally minded or paranormal investigators who have done this with like an academic mind to encounter the Hat Man. Right?
Oh, boy.
Not endorsing that or encounter that, but I'm just wondering, because I think of dumb teens when I
Yes,
think of something like the Benadryl challenge, but I wonder if there are people who are like, this is the key.
you know, listen, I do think that there are likely people who have taken any number of things. Like that was a thing, right? Like take a bunch of LSD and that opens your mind up to other experiences and you'll see.
Yeah, like any psychedelics. Yeah.
I'm certain of that.
Yeah.
But the Benadryl challenge, it's one of those things where you're like, but nobody really did it. Well, people did it.
I'm sure they did.
And a few kids died.
Oh man.
There were deaths associated with the Benadryl challenge. Now I'm not going to sit here and make us go down this deep, dark hole of the misery of that, because it is miserable. But like that's the sort of thing where it's like I'm not going to characterize it as they did the Benadryl challenge to see the Hat Man and they died.
No,
but it's one of those like challenge things, and it's like I know that there was like the Tide Pod challenge.
Yeah,
and
people just do a challenge. I don't know.
Yeah, it is this weird. It's a safe daredevil thing. Like by safe, I mean you're not dangling off the side of a building to do the Benadryl.
You're doing it at home. It's a homebound.
And thinking, how bad could it be?
Yeah, exactly.
But man, take enough Benadryl and you'll die.
Take enough like anything, and you'll die.
Kids
You know,
died.
like yikes.
Yeah, it really is nightmarish.
That sucks.
So let's talk about some Hat Man. Let's talk about some Hat Man experiences.
Let's do it.
I'll read you just a couple, and then I think we'll have them for all time.
Yeah.
Okay? So I wrote them down essentially. I wrote down the ones that I liked the most. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
So there's some just like clean cut. There's a Hat Man experience, and then some that I'm like, that's weird.
Of course.
Okay. So here are some comments from the Hunt a Killer Deep Dives article. The Hat Man is a shadow person who will keep you up at night. Written by a genius, Kristen Anderson.
That's right.
Okay. This comment was left by a person who only described themselves with the name doesn't matter. Name doesn't matter.
Okay.
My wife woke up to this figure bent over her almost face to face, paralyzed in fear. She woke me up and I saw the figure lean up and walk out of the room. I got out of bed and walked the house. Every single door was shut and locked, and every single window was shut and locked. Just vanished. Roughly 6 feet tall-ish, more of a Men in Black type of suit outfit with a decent wide brim hat for the frame.
Decent.
Freaked. Yeah, there was a decent hat on this guy.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, he had a mustache.
I'll say it wasn't bad.
Had a mustache about 6 feet tall. That's an awfully big mustache. Freaked me the hell out. My dogs didn't even notice or make a noise either. Like they were in a coma or something odd. I think he's just saying
I know.
like the because you think of this as a home invader type thing, but if the dogs didn't respond to the home invader,
Right.
he must not have been human.
No, where did he come from? Maybe he just materialized in the room, didn't make a sound, so the dogs, there's nothing to react to.
To some extent, that's like a purist, almost a purist interaction or experience of seeing the Hat Man.
Yeah.
A little unusual in that it was a couple that both saw him.
Yeah, definitely.
Some accounts, it's like I screamed because I saw the Hat Man when my parents came to get me. There was no one there.
Most that I've read have been just a single person experiencing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was interesting in that there were two of them.
Definitely.
Here is one that like I almost considered not reading, but you can't tell. I'm just going to read it and then we'll both react to it together. Sandra, I'll leave her last name out, but her last name's there. Sandra left this comment. My son is seeing this in our room. I have a voice recording right now of him explaining to me what he's seeing. How can I get rid of it? He cries. Why can he only see it? Why can't I see it?
Oh my God.
Now, I do not know how to make heads or tails of... It's a comment on a website. The veracity of it, the willingness to participate in the legend of the Hat Man or a mental illness. Or if you believe in the paranormal, the Hat Man.
Well, also, how old is the kid? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, it could just be little kids being scared of stuff.
Absolutely.
And the mother taking it literally.
But certainly the kind of post that a lot of people might see on a million different kinds of sites of like the right, like for us on Guide to the Unknown and for a lot of our audience, a lot of these figures are a form of entertainment, right?
Yeah,
like
it's fun to talk about and interesting to think about.
It's fun to look at scary stuff. There was a period of time where I think I struggled to even describe what we do here because it's not a scary show. Guide to the Unknown's not scary. We're not going to scare you. We love scary stuff.
Yeah.
We thrive on it.
Yes.
We're having fun with scary stuff.
Yep.
But there's no denying that like part of the core purpose of stories like this is to scare people.
Yeah.
And these are the kinds of things that you might see occasionally in researching this stuff that makes you go, are people experiencing it or do they believe they're experiencing it? Either way,
They're scared.
they're scared, which is horrible.
Yeah, totally. I feel bad that I haven't been in these comments. I've abandoned my flock.
Oh, you must return to them. Yes. Okay. Here's one this is the last one that I'll read to you for now.
Yeah.
And it's long-ish, but there's a key point in it that I think is worth discussing. Let's see if you catch it.
Okay.
All right. It's almost like a blink and you'll miss it type of detail in this story. Let's see if you catch what I caught.
All right.
This was left by Masai. I saw the Hat Man as a child, sleeping by myself in my bedroom. I woke up unable to move or speak. This towering figure, at least 6 to 7 feet at the foot of my bed, with red eyes, a Cheshire cat grin, and a wide-brimmed fedora, staring, almost vibrating in excitement at my fear. I repeated in my head, in Jesus' name, over and over and over. There are many accounts of the Hat Man perhaps being the devil.
Yeah.
And that evoking like conventional, like The Exorcist, conventional Christian mythology.
Right.
can
I remember
banish
that.
him, right? So that's what supposedly was happening here. It suddenly had a look of fear and turned around to run out the door behind him. I don't know where I got the bravery, but I lunged at it and swung a right hook and instantly collapsed on the floor with my vision staring at the ceiling. It has to be evil energy for me to drop so instantly at the slightest touch. I woke up in my bed, but I am convinced I astrally projected and attacked him. That was 25 years ago. I am now a father and businessman. But the amount of tragic events after that experience were more than I can bear. Apparently, this figure has been around since ancient times, and just a few centuries ago it started wearing a fedora. I wish I could kill it.
Oh my God.
All right, what are your biggest takeaways from that story?
Well, the glowing red eyes, because you said that was a newer kind of thing that seemed to have cropped up.
I've seen that a lot in many of these stories, and it didn't seem to be until maybe the last couple of years.
Right. So if it happened 25 years ago.
Because if you're a shadow being, he originally was pure silhouette. No nothing.
Right.
Okay.
That stuck out. I don't even remember now. What was the point that...
Here's the one that was the most glaring red flag to me.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, I forgot that he tried to punch it and it knocked him to the floor. The
Right.
power of it.
Yeah.
As if he like touched an electric fence.
I misunderstood. I thought that he punched
Missed
through.
it.
Yes, I
He's
thought
nothing.
I thought he like punched through a shadow, and so he like fell on the floor because he was using all his weight. I didn't understand that.
I forgot there was a punch involved at all. And then reading this, I assumed the same thing as you. It was like, oh, he punched and missed because he's made of vapor, shadow, nothing. But no, it had to be powerful.
It like caught his fist and like
Exactly.
wrenched it.
It has to be evil energy for me to drop so instantly at the slightest touch.
Yeah, I know. I did clock that, but I was just like, I don't really understand what that means.
Here's the thing that really stood out to me. I am now a father and businessman.
Yeah.
No one describes themselves as, I'm a businessman. What do you do for a living? I'm a businessman.
Businessman.
That's how a child views the future. Right? That's how a child describes a job. This is a little kid. That was the smoking gun.
I don't know.
I am now a father and a businessman.
I don't know. I feel like if somebody's trying to validate that, like, oh, I'm a serious individual, they might say businessman. This is also somebody who said, what was it? his evil was such
Right.
that it whatever.
No,
However,
this kid's
that is also weird enough to be something that a kid says.
still like an 11-year-old.
Yeah, I think it's
I am now a
11-year-old.
father and a businessman. No one in the history of the world has ever said, occupation, businessman.
Businessman.
That's crazy. That's a crazy thing to say. You know?
It's so funny.
That's like saying like I'm a fireman.
Yeah.
You would say firefighter, like it would be close. I guess that's not as extreme.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a fireman. Like it just sounds
You'd say
like
fireman.
a kid's approximation
I'm a
of
fireman.
the adult world. I'm a businessman.
I am now a businessman in a busy office in the city.
Yeah, here's your businessman,
I
certificate.
order the bussman special.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I do business and business
Things such as
related things.
this.
What's in the briefcase?
Business. Crackers.
There you go. You got it right on the second take.
Oh, yeah.
So there's the Hat Man.
Yeah.
Slight update, some new wrinkles to the lore.
Yeah.
Some classic
I learned some
lore,
stuff.
and some experiences, which again, I treat it like the Walker, Texas Ranger lever. If ever we need it, just go Hat Man story.
Yeah.
I've got a bunch.
Well, hang on to those
Yes.
for a future.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, perfect.
Absolutely. We'll revisit the Hat Man again, I'm sure.
Certainly.
I do anticipate this story continuing to grow and change with many tellings.
It seems like it. I don't really know what precipitated this like new crop of people reading
don't
about
know.
it or whatever, but it happens every once in a while and it has for years.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't think it'll stop.
May the Hat Man live long and prostate.
May the Hat Man be with you.
And also with you.
Thank you. So I am going to talk about hags.
Yes.
But before I do so, let me tell you about this couple of hags. We're Guides to the Unknown. We have another podcast, a second one.
That's right.
That's called the Netherworld Dispatch, and it comes out every Monday if you are a member of patreon.com/GTTUpod, specifically at the Demon tier.
Mm-hmm.
We have other tiers as well where you get episodes a little bit more sporadically that, it's on like
every
a
couple
price
of weeks,
system.
once a month.
Yeah.
Find a tier that fits you, but we're doing it every single Monday on the Demon tier.
Yeah.
It's such a good time. We watch a lot of clips. We're recording right now in the summer where a lot of horror news is coming out.
Yeah.
So our most recent episode is episode 120. You get every episode if you sign up now, and every future episode if you stay.
Yeah.
Our most recent episode we called Unsolved Mysteries, Free Association.
That's right, because we started out watching Unsolved Mysteries, but then somehow we got onto, let's watch the trailer for Stigmata. Then during that, let's watch the trailer for, I don't know, Happy
Town.
Yeah, let's watch the trailer for Wayward Pines. Like all these canceled mystery shows.
Yeah.
And I loved it.
We got some positive feedback too. People
Yeah,
seem
we
to
did.
like our sort of like following our whimsy
Thank
and
God.
finding different crazy things. And I really had a good time doing that
I
show.
did too. It also like gave me shows to watch or rewatch.
I did.
People
in
commented
fact,
with some other stuff. Yeah, Will watched.
I watched all of Happy Town in the last week since
And
we
guess
did that
what?
show.
I'm going to watch Happy Town, and then
Yeah.
we're going to talk about it on the Netherworld Dispatch.
Oh, I can't wait.
yeah, you can find it all on YouTube, by the way, if you're interested in watching it.
Yeah, somebody just posted it on YouTube. It's a
Yeah.
dead show, small town mystery, which I love.
Yeah.
And it's what a calamity. We'll talk about it
Yes.
someday. It's
Yeah.
great. We've also got, as of this recording, 920 reviews.
Oh, nice.
Well on the way to 1,000.
Thank you.
And I selected this most recent review. I would have picked it even if it was buried. It was written by Poop Knife. PEWP Knife. Woo! Who says, years of enjoying this show. This is my favorite podcast of all time. Listening to Kristen and Will makes me feel like I'm listening to my own conversations with my brothers and helps me clean and 10x speed. At
Clean-
10x
yeah,
speed? Yes.
probably.
Yes. My daughter finishes the intro with, and I'm her little brother, William.
Aww.
My husband has a glow-in-the-dark water bottle that he has nicknamed Flowed Green.
Oh, I love that.
Kristen and Will are a part of our family, whether
Oh my
they
God.
like it or not.
That is so nice.
Call me Willie Poop Knife. I'm in.
Oh, absolutely. I'm Chrissy Poop Knife.
Join in the family.
Yep.
5 stars.
Oh, thank you so much. What a nice review. What a fun review.
Absolutely.
Might I say, from the name to the content.
Absolutely. Let me also shout out, we have gotten a bunch of reviews from people that are like, I had to log into my friend's account or my partner's account to leave this review because I listen on Spotify. I listen elsewhere. I figured out how to get onto Apple Podcasts just to leave this review. And thank you and shout out to all of you. Thank you all for your support. this show only thrives because of your support, and we really appreciate you.
Yes, I've been sitting here open mouth while Will said that. That is so nice. Thank you so much for making the effort. I know it maybe doesn't seem like a huge deal, but that's like part of your day. It's really nice that you took the time to figure that out and do that. Thank you so much to everybody who leaves us reviews, because it really helps other people who might, pass by the show, be like, oh, maybe I'll give that a listen. And we really appreciate it. So thank you. And I also want to give a shout out to my friend whose name I don't know because we didn't exchange names, but my friend in the Bitch Sesh Discord who saw that I was in there and said that they loved the show and suggested to the host that I come on it. And it was so nice. It truly made my day. So thank you so much, fellow Housewives fan.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
That's very, very fun. All right, everybody. Thank you. And now we're going to continue on to our conversation with Hags. Can I give you one thing that ties it all together?
Yeah.
So, quoting again, a brilliant writer.
An up-and-comer.
He can direct the Hat Man.
Yeah.
He can direct other shadow people to terrorize you. Like directing the old hag to go sit on your chest.
Oh,
The Hat Man and the Hag are about to go.
This gorgeous couple. All right, so who is the Hag? What's her deal? Basically, in general, it's usually an evil older gal who we don't like.
Right.
And you may have heard, as Will said, about hags in the context of what's often called old hag syndrome. It's also sleep paralysis, but people finding different language around it, or maybe having a different experience with it.
Sure.
Where people experience an old hag, or sometimes called a night hag, sitting on their chest and projecting nightmares into them.
Projecting nightmares
Yeah,
into them.
that was something I hadn't heard before. No. I had heard of it as in sleep paralysis, where you're like awake but not awake, and your body can't move, like Will said, but you're kind of like lucid and aware of what's going on, and it sounds horrendous for people who've experienced it.
That is similar. I can see why for some people there's been this handoff between the Hat Man and the Hag, as like, if they both have something to do with terrorizing you when you're experiencing sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
They like both want the same thing.
Right.
In a weird way.
Right. They want to mess with you in some way. It seems like he is taking from you while the Hag is giving you nightmares.
She gives you the nightmares, then he feeds on it.
Yeah, you're right.
That's interesting.
You're right. It's kind of like a cycle.
I just want to quickly also say that you said night hag. And that sounds like some sort of like a 90s edgy, like she's got a car that can talk and she solves mysteries. Night hag.
Guess what? There's another word that I thought the exact same thing.
Really?
Sounds like some sort of like sweet badass like band or something like that, because having this happen to you has been called being hag-ridden.
Hag-ridden.
Yes.
Whoa.
So I don't totally know whether that means like, you could be like riddled or infested with rats or something like that. So you're hag-ridden.
You're hag-ridden.
Or is it literally ridden like you ride a horse? Because the image that's projected is that a hag is literally on you, probably straddling you, like sitting on your chest and causing this actual physical shortness of breath and stuff. So it could be hag ridden, or you're ridden with this.
It does sound like something you'd
like
be like
grief ridden, grief stricken, whatever.
You can't just roll into work all disheveled, looking all hag ridden.
Yeah.
Like it does sound like some sort of a put down.
Yeah, right. Like you're just like hag ridden and gross. Wasn't that what was when we talked about last week? What was my thing? Is from Gullah culture.
The boo hags.
The boo hags.
Yeah.
Was that also hag ridden or something?
Oh, I don't know.
There was something where there was like a turn of phrase where it was like, oh, don't, I think it might have just been like, don't let the boo hag get you or something like that. It was or in the morning, it'd be like, you look like the boo hag got you. Something along those lines.
We did boo hags last week. We're doing hags now.
Yeah, I know.
It's double weird that I hadn't thought of that.
I hadn't either at all. Kind of similar, but not totally. Yeah. So like I said, it's an old lady. She's an old woman, and we don't like her.
Right.
And I read that the distrust of the idea of a hag seems to stem from a general distrust of women back in the day, and today, of course, but men were threatened by women being able to carry new life, tempting them with their beauty, bleeding without being cut, etc. So anything that could keep women down was like probably a good idea, because who knows what they can do with all this stuff.
Right.
And so having an idea of this like old, disgusting woman. It's like she's got something in common with all women. So let's just sort of paint them with a broad brush. And then also kind of to the same point of sort of lumping them all together, hags were also associated with the idea of barrenness. So in the idea of barren land, as I'll kind of get to later, but that could also play into the idea of a woman not being able to have children.
Oh.
And back in the day, not being able to have children was very devaluing for some people in their view of women, because giving men heirs was such a prized thing. It was supposed to be such a given.
Great, so you're useless now.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
So a hag, because they're an old woman, is inherently beyond childbearing years.
Yeah.
So to call that out as like one of the main things about them is meant to be derogatory in and of itself. That like this barrenness is like you're no good, basically. And that's like a signature part of what you are as a hag, because you can't have children anymore. And so again, if we hate this thing because it doesn't have children, among other things, it's also like women and the whole deal.
Yeah, you're useless. You're unnatural.
Yeah.
You can't do the thing that women are for. Mm-hmm. You know the exact opposite of a hag?
What?
Al Pacino.
The most virile man in America.
Yes, because he's having a new baby and he's the oldest man on the planet.
And Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
These guys, I know. You're right. They are the opposite of hags.
Talk about heat. Grandpa.
Ryan was just watching.
You're going to start a fire.
Like last week. Have you ever seen Heat?
Yeah, Allie and I watched it like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, really? It must be like new on streaming or something.
I don't know. I have no idea what's in the ether about Heat.
Oh, that's so funny. But you're absolutely right. They're the opposite of hags.
Yeah. Some virile old coot.
Had you heard that he was like completely shocked that she was pregnant? So he like made her take a pregnancy test because he was like, hoo-ah, I don't think I can still do that or whatever. And then he found that he could.
God damn.
Crazy. I think it was Al Pacino in that, not Robert De Niro.
Al Pacino, the anti-hag.
Yeah. Oh, it's so
Can we start calling him a hag?
Sure.
I know that he's a legend.
Yeah.
I don't want to say he's not a legend and not...
Works for me. Basically, a hag is kind of an old woman. It's an old woman, usually like a frail old woman.
Yeah.
And also who is often freakishly strong. I would say him having that baby now is a form of strength that you don't expect, could be called freakish.
You don't want to be confronted with, certainly.
No. So I would call him a hag. And also, he's the devil.
You're right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The devil's advocate. Mm-hmm. Is that the right? Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep. So
You're
Al Pacino
right.
is a hag.
Good job.
Branded.
You did it.
So their association with barrenness is not always like physical fertility barrenness. In some tellings, a hag is actually a seasonal goddess ruling over the barren winter months, while Brigid, who's another goddess, carries the summer. And so any season, if crops didn't grow where they should, you might say a hag walked over that plot of land.
Everything is tied to fertility and giving life. And if there is no life, hag.
Right,
Got
exactly.
it, yeah.
So a hag is also crone adjacent.
Sure.
But the crone has a little bit of a better reputation, mostly because of the triple goddess in paganism. So this is the idea of the maiden, mother, and crone, or sometimes it's representing the phases of the moon, or sometimes representing heaven, earth, and the underworld. This kind of like Tripoli thing, but focusing on maiden, mother, and crone right now because that's what we're talking about. And the crone in that, like, it's a funny word and everything, but it's symbolizing like a wise old woman. You've like lived this life.
Right.
You've lived the life of the maiden, a younger person, mother, which doesn't have to necessarily mean actual mother, but of mothering age. So it is still kind of tied into that, but it just, these are signifying age points.
Crone is mother.
Actually, crone is mother now that you say it. But yeah, crone has been through all of this stuff and like really is getting life. And I actually really like that. Yeah. I really respond to the archetype of the crone because I think of it as like, if you think of these sorts of things as somehow archetypically representative of yourself or things to aspire to, like the crone is like your highest self who knows what's best, but in like a chill way, not like a pushy holier than thou way. And we all have a little crone to get in touch with every now and then if we want to. We can
Her name
think
is
about
Mildred.
Yeah. She lives down the street. I see her pushing a grocery cart with nothing in it.
I gotta get in touch with that old crone again.
But you might say, what would the crone do in this situation? What would my highest self, who now knows all, do?
Wisdom.
And try to go with that.
Yeah. I remember years ago, somebody described Hillary Clinton as an old crone trying to become president.
Yeah.
And so I was, and people kept being like, oh, picking between Trump and Hillary. What?
Right.
And so I did a whole show where I was like, it's picking between which crone do we want?
Yeah.
Just calling him a crone too.
I mean, same diff.
I do like that notion, especially the older that I get, the more that I really enjoy. Like, I remember being a kid and sometimes you were afraid of old people.
Totally.
Right? And I think that, I know that's like, it's not kind, but like, I do think that's kind of a natural
I think it is too.
thing.
Yeah.
But I think that it's a wonderful notion, and it's something that we should all do better at, of like, old people is just having experiences, and, you know, the crone as a figure is one thing, but also just the idea of people who are older have experienced a whole lot of stuff and probably have some context. They probably have some outdated opinions as well.
Of course.
But they might have a lot of information worth hearing.
Absolutely. So like, if an extension of some sort of exercise for a lot of people in paganism, or practice that and practice Wiccanism and stuff, or practice Wicca, it's not called Wiccanism. It's to kind of like think of these archetypes and how you can embody them. And a really nice extension of that is maybe using that as a way to relate to actual real life, older people in your life. And remember that the same like wisdom that you're hoping to tap into by thinking about like the crone version of yourself, like there are real people who have that and like to, you know, to care about them.
Absolutely.
So having said all that, crone's got a good rep, but a hag, ew, no thanks, even though they're like very close to the same thing.
Not to keep derailing you, and I'm sorry, but you do also hear people, like I said about somebody saying about Hillary Clinton, they do go like, you old crone. Like they have tried very hard to cast crone as a big negative.
Honestly, it's probably people who are in like hippy dippy circles like me who like think of the crone as something like cool.
Yeah, that know that.
Probably a lot of people just think of crone as like an ugly old woman.
Yeah.
But you know, it can be more than that. And guess what?
Totally.
Ugly old women are cool too.
Justice for ugly old women.
Justice for ugly old women. Ugh. Like the hag.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, don't be sorry. I love talking about this stuff. But yeah, so the hag has like more of a, even if the crone isn't respected and called an ugly old woman, they're not inherently like evil. A hag is like probably evil, if not at least like a little tricky.
Yeah.
Except in Ireland and Scotland, because in Gaelic mythology, there's kind of more of a crone vibe in the way that I was talking about it to the hag, and being seen as wise and powerful, but often with a little bit of mischief because they are freakishly strong, even though they look frail.
Whoa,
so a little bit of a Willy Wonka thing where maybe there's a hag walking down a red carpet looking like they're not doing so well, and then a quick tumble and we're up.
Putting on a little show. Putting on the Ritz.
God. They can control the elements and the weather in some of this lore. And Scottish lore has a group of hags known as the Cailleachin, who are said to be personifications of destructive forms of nature. And even besides them, like that's like almost like supernatural. Well, I guess they can all be supernatural, but this is like one certain thing. Yeah. But it's also said that like certain hags can control nature and the elements so much that just a tap or a thump of a hag's walking stick on the ground could freeze it. They just have this like power over the elements.
All right.
There are legends that mountains, I love this idea, but it's also like, why do they have these? That mountains are born from hags dropping stones out of their bags that then grew and grew into mountains. I would ask why they're carrying stones around like that.
Yeah, they're just falling out of the bag.
That's what's happening. But
haphazard.
Why? It's a sloppy hag.
You sloppy old hag.
So they're often seen as powerful, but kind of volatile at the same time. And in a lot of stories, it's kind of hard to distinguish, and it probably changes story to story, whether the hag is a woman who knows how to perform magic, like a witch, so she's mortal, but she's found a way to work with these energies, or is this an inherently supernatural being herself, like the Hat Man or something else?
Yeah.
So in a lot of stories where it is more like hags are scary, which is the majority, by the way, I think the Gaelic stuff is kind of the outlier where they're like, oh, they're they're powerful and watch out for them, but they're ultimately neutral to good.
Yeah.
Hags are used kind of as like a boogeyman. So the thing we've talked about like a million times before, kind of cautionary tales to keep children from wandering off, or pretty much like anybody from wandering off. So
I think it's probably mostly children.
I said anybody.
Like, you wouldn't be going out to like a business lunch and then just be like, oh, Dave, by the way, don't dilly-dally when you go to the bathroom, or a hag might take
There's
you.
a hag about.
Yeah.
The reason I added anybody is because when I was reading about Baba Yaga, which I'll talk about in a second, it said that she stole children and also adults or something. So I was like, oh, I guess it's more universal and less age-based than I thought.
There's a hag about. It's like saying it to like your coworker.
Yeah. Oh, Bob, don't linger in the bathroom at Chili's. There's a hag about. Because they're at a Chili's happy hour.
Of course. Naturally.
Yeah. Oh, God. Okay, so I was thinking, if you were a kid in the past where they're telling you these cautionary tales or whatever, and maybe they kind of think they're real depending on how far away this was, because at some point somebody must have thought this was real.
Yeah.
Then they start to get hip to it's not, but they're like, but it kept the kids in line, so let's just keep going it on. You must have thought that danger was lurking around every corner. With the amount of stories we've told that are like this, there are hags, there are whatever.
Yeah, you're right. Everything is going to get you.
It's terrifying everywhere. And I was thinking about like, we don't do this anymore. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to be telling Zoe that the boogeyman is out there or something.
No.
And so like, how did we evolve away from this? And I wonder if, number one, we evolved away from it partially with like building of infrastructure and stuff like that, like buildings and everything, because there are fewer places for a hag to be living and hiding, or a boogeyman to be, or whatever other thing. Like, it becomes less and less likely when you live in a neighborhood that there's an unseen hag who's going to pop out and get you. And then I was wondering if like the culture in, I guess, I don't know, let's say like the 50s to the 80s, where people talk about how like, you would leave your house in the morning, you don't come home until dinner, and your parents didn't know where you were. Was that kind of like a weird response to this kind of like, don't go anywhere because there are hags around, whatever? And then when we realized that that wasn't the case, it was like free for all. You can go do your thing.
But then we honed back in.
Right.
So like, I think you're spot on. I hadn't really ever thought about it in those terms. Like, when did we stop with like the boogeyman?
That. Yeah.
Like, kids will talk about that to each other, but seldom will a parent be like, "Oh, Timmy, come on back now, okay? Because there's a hag."
I hope it's extremely seldom.
I mean, I do have secondhand knowledge of a family that, like, if the kids were acting up in the back seat,
I love it.
The parent would pull the car over and then say, like, "If you guys don't keep it down, I'm going to leave you on the side of the road for
Witchy Mambo
to get you." So that is 100% how the boogeyman would be used.
Yes.
But part of the reason why I have this, like, curiosity about urban legends and why we've been talking about them as much as we have, especially lately, is like, I was going to do a show about urban legends for a while. So I started looking into them, like, really from like an academic standpoint almost. And it's the same goddamn thing. We never stopped talking about the boogeyman. The boogeyman just changed form.
Yeah.
So parents won't really say to their kid, "Stay close or the boogeyman will get you." What they do say is, if you don't come back before, it's dark, there's a guy in a van and he might take you.
Yeah. Or
we say somebody's putting drugs in your Halloween candy.
Right.
Or we say there's a call coming from inside the house and there's a killer that can get you through your phone. You know what I mean? Like, the boogeyman legend never actually really stopped. It just took a million different forms.
Yeah.
As technology has evolved, our fear has evolved with technology. So like, I've gone on and on many times. I'll keep it brief, but like, Scream. We love Scream.
Yeah.
I get obsessed with Scream. Scream in the 90s was a boogeyman story.
Yep.
Because cell phones were becoming increasingly common in everyday life.
And this is what can happen with them.
Here's the scary thing that could happen with the cell phone. It used to be that if somebody called you to threaten you, you at least knew they were holding a phone
stationary
that was wired to a base somewhere else.
Yeah.
Now cell phones are here and teenagers can use the phone to stalk you from just outside your house, come in and kill you. And that was, Scream is both a novel story about modern emerging tech, but I have always viewed these things as also being humans need to tell the worst case scenario about societal or technological advancement, because as convenient as it makes our lives, it opens up to new possibilities for terror.
Yeah.
And scary stories are how we digest our fear.
Right.
And go, okay, well, it'll never be as bad as that movie showed us.
Yes.
Therefore, I feel more safe. And then you invent caller ID.
Yeah.
But like the boogeyman thing, you're right. The boogeyman sort of stopped.
Yeah.
The conventional
in that
old world
form.
folklore.
Like a supernatural boogeyman.
But we invent a boogeyman for every change that comes down the pike.
And also talking about technology and stuff, like I wonder if we kind of, because you're right, I think we have I was gonna say inbred, that's not true, but a natural need to, I don't know, engage with scary stuff is basically what I'm saying. So as technology evolves and we have things like newspapers and then the internet and whatever, we're hearing about real life scary stuff now, like real life killers, abductors, violence, whatever. So maybe that's kind of taking the place of these ultimately made up stories. And it's like our tank has been filled.
Yeah.
Like we've hit our quota now, and there's no motivation to have these kinds of scary fictional things that are passed around in real life as a real thing.
Like a literal monster. Yeah, you're right about that. That is interesting. Although we were just talking about the Hat Man. Now that did not come from any form of technology, it doesn't seem, although the dissemination of storytelling has gotten so much more immediate and interesting. Like a lot of it was about like how are people telling the story to each other on TikTok and stuff. That's a big...
Well, there is still a craving for the unknown, obviously.
Yes,
but I think maybe in a real life, like parents warning kids way.
Yeah.
Like now there's something more tangible and actual.
Don't do the Tide Pod challenge.
Yeah.
Even though people literally did it and did die from it, it was not the majority.
Right.
And yet it became this tent pole of like, you better not do it. Your friends at school are doing it.
Yeah.
And the news saying to adults, your kids are doing it.
Yeah, we're finding out about these actual things to fear in a much more immediate way than we could have back when people were saying like there's a legend, and they're meaning it. There's a legend about these hags, they'll get you, stay away from the water. Like we just have this factual stuff that kind of like wipes that out.
That's interesting.
There's no need.
That's very interesting.
It is interesting. So I referenced the water kind of thing because here is one of those sorts of like boogeyman story that was popular in England at a certain point. So this character went by several names. Peg Powler, which is a Riverdale ass name if I've ever heard one.
Sounds like a Polly Pocket or like Mattel is working on this for the new movies.
Well, listen to these. Jenny Greenteeth and Nellie Longarms.
Oh.
So these are all different names for a river hag with skin the color of green pond scum. So they're kind of like camouflaged into it. And parents told kids that if they got too close to the water, that these hags would pull them in with their long arms, hence Nellie Longarms, drown them, and in some versions, eat them up.
Wow.
Yeah.
You mean they ate each other up?
They ate each other up.
Wow. Nellie Longarms at first sounded like a real piece of shit name.
But no, they don't even have to like really get out. I guess they just got really long arms. They can just come get you.
I'm coming around to that one. That's pretty freaky.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
Green teeth, I guess, is if you're smiling in the pond scum.
It's got a mouthful of bush.
Yeah, right. So Baba Yaga also kind of falls under the category of hags, but is sometimes thought of as more of an ogress, but I'll allow it.
You did it, so.
So in most tellings, she's a bad old lady who lives in a hut propped up on chicken legs. You've probably seen something that's kind of like this.
Yep.
Friend of the show, Brett Manning,
Yes.
has like really awesome Baba Yaga art. And with a fence around it that is topped with skulls.
Cool.
Sometimes, depending on the story, Baba Yaga lives with 2 or 3 sisters who are also just named Baba Yaga.
Really?
Yeah.
That must got confusing.
Baba Yaga means grandmother witch, but it's not a direct translation. Like, Yaga is not a word. I think it's in Russian, but it just somehow got all mushed together like this.
Okay.
So she can travel first of all, you usually think of her traveling with the house. Like the house uses the chicken legs to be walking around.
Literally like it's on stilts. Like the house has legs and feet,
Yeah,
but it's chicken legs and chicken feet.
Yep, exactly. And I had never heard this part of it, but I think it's awesome that she would sweep up behind the house so that she doesn't leave a trace as she's moving through the woods.
Love it.
So they can move with stealth, which is awesome.
Also like Danny Torrance.
Yes.
Who we just referenced,
Yeah, that's right. She can also travel by flying through the air in a tea kettle, which I think is awesome. And also, I played this game called Witchwood. It's W-Y, Witchwood. And the main character, it's like a whole witchy thing. It's so good. I can't recommend it enough. But the character of the witch has an upside down tea kettle as a head. And I just thought it was like a cool, weird detail. And I didn't realize it was such a direct Baba Yaga reference.
It was like born out of the folklore.
Mm-hmm.
We also played a little bit on Patreon, the Alan Wake game, which I replayed recently and found out that, it's getting a sequel soon, so we might talk about it again. But Alan Wake is a writer, and he's staying at a cabin on the bird leg cabin. It's called. It's on an island shaped like a bird's leg, and the cabin is on it, which is a reference to Baba Yaga.
Yeah.
And one of the like villainous folklore characters in the story is Barbara Jagger, which is Baba Yaga.
Yeah.
And I never knew, but there's like all this Baba Yaga sort of like deconstructed and hidden in the story throughout.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah. There's a lot more to it than I'm saying. Like it's like a very beloved character.
I'd be curious. We could do another Baba Yaga.
Yeah, I think there's more. There's a lot more to it for sure. So the other way that she can travel, which I think is awesome, is using a mortar and pestle.
Oh.
So she like sits in the mortar and uses a pestle to power it. Like she's kind of like in a boat with an oar, but flying through the air.
I love it.
And when she travels by air, she creates wind storms as she goes, which kind of fits with the hag thing of manipulating the weather and elements. So why is she heading out and about? To naturally snatch people up, usually children, and cook and eat them.
Oh no.
Yikes, Baba Yaga. But that's the scary version of the story. And like I said, there are a million variations on it. She's also sometimes seen as just like a magical woman who lives out in the woods and maybe able to grant wishes if you get to her. Or sometimes has kind of like a benevolent trickster energy to her where you might come to her for a wish and she doesn't make it easy for you, but it's inciting growth in you at the same time. So it's like, Baba Yaga, thank you.
You taught me a lesson in the end.
Right.
You know, you mentioned a mortar and pestle. Mm-hmm. In the movie Witch.
Yeah.
The
Vavitch.
A witch uses a mortar and pestle to grind up bones. To rub blood all over herself.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Yeah.
We
were playing with a mortar and pestle with Zoe the other day.
We were, yes. You gave Zoe a mortar and pestle. Seldom referenced tool.
Yeah.
Coming up several different ways. It's interesting.
Have you ever used a mortar and pestle?
I
think it's pestle. I can't tell now if it's
pestle or pestle. I've always said it pestle.
I thought it was pestle, but
I might be a yokel. I don't know.
No, I don't know.
I've never used it in the conventional approved method.
Yeah.
I think I crushed a jelly bean with one once.
That works for me.
Okay. So I
would suggest doing something dry in it. It's very satisfying.
The jelly bean gets a little crunch.
Yeah, only on the outside, but then you get the gush.
Oh, the chewy center.
So Baba Yaga, also in all versions this is the case, she is the guardian to the fountains of the waters of life, even when she's a bad guy.
Oh.
But in the good version, she's kind of an embodiment of female independence and empowerment, because I mentioned 2 or 3 sisters. Most of the times that she lives by herself, and she's like a badass lady who lives out in the woods by herself doing her thing.
I'm like jealous now.
Yeah.
Can we recharacterize the Hat Man as like, he doesn't get into all that like alpha male stuff. Like he's just like very comfortable with his masculinity.
He actually doesn't feel like an alpha to me. I think he feels, what was it that we realized was outside of it? I think he lives outside the paradigm.
Yeah.
Was it Gamma?
Well, I've been saying that I go beyond alpha male because I don't care about any of the conventional masculine stuff.
Correct.
So like a grandpa male or something like a.
There was one, I think was it gamma male or something?
Zeta male.
Zeta male. I feel he's like a zeta male.
Yeah.
I don't know. with all the hat, I mean, he's not afraid to like wear a hat that could be construed as not that manly.
A lady ran over to me the other day.
Oh my God.
This is true. This is a true story. I went out for coffee with a friend. He's a Rutgers professor and a really clever like creator here in town. And we went out for coffee and we had a nice conversation. We were talking a little bit about life and work and projects that we're doing and stuff. And at the end of the conversation, when we were leaving, a lady ran over to us and she goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I just want to say I couldn't help but hear some of your conversation. We're so loud."
Yeah.
She's like, "I couldn't help but hear some of your conversation."
You don't say.
She's like, "I just wanted to say, like, I loved hearing two men have a conversation where they were so sort of like emotionally open, and your relationship was just so beautiful. And I really feel like this is not something that men are doing much, and I feel like men need to have more conversations like this." And I went, "Oh, but thank you." Like I was sort of like taken aback. And it was a compliment, and I was like, "Oh, thank you." And then the compliment started to
I
be
know, but
like,
it's also like, well, why should I be like that?
I'm supposed to be an idiot.
Yeah, right.
Like,
Wow, I really love what a not Neanderthal you are.
yeah, and I'm plenty Neanderthalish in my own ways. All right, I'm not.
Like,
I don't
why
wanna,
would you assume I would be like that?
Don't let me pretend that I'm bigging myself up through this either. There are plenty of things on which I fall flat and have failed. But
don't we all? But I think you're fabulous.
But then I was like, well, thank you so much. And then my buddy goes, "Yeah, thank you. Now let's go pound some brewskis and watch some football." And I went, "I'm going to be emotionally distant for a month just to compensate."
So
and
funny.
she sort of laughed at it.
Yeah.
You know, she kind of, and I like waved friendly.
Yeah.
But it was a weird moment.
It was weird.
It was both a compliment and like a weird like.
Yeah.
You know, men are more.
Yeah,
men are
totally.
capable of being more, and there are plenty of shit people out there.
Definitely.
Plenty, and I've certainly done my share. But like,
no, it lives in an in-between space.
I'm just a guy. I'm just talking to my friend.
Yeah, it's like it's not.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm just talking to this guy I'm friends with.
Yeah, we're not all complete like assholes or whatever. It shouldn't be that unique and notable.
Yeah, you know.
Kind of is sometimes, but yeah, it's a weird. Lives in a half space.
That's weird.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So that's it. Those are hags. I mean, of course, we know the Hansel and Gretel witch. Hag.
But
we don't know that story.
Can we put like a hag stamp on more people? Who did we stamp as a hag? Al Pacino?
Yeah. Hag.
Who else is a hag?
Hansel and Gretel witch. Hag.
I don't know. Snow White witch.
Hag.
Hag.
Yes, she is. She is a hag, actually. Because another element of hags is that some of them can shapeshift. So, like, you know, she's like this old scary witch in the cartoon and then can be this, like, beautiful queen. So, yes.
She was not at all the embodiment of, like, wisdom. Well, because she was pretending to be a hag.
Yeah,
She wasn't
true.
really being a hag.
Yeah, you're right, actually.
Right?
There was an article that it's in the show notes or whatever, and it used a picture of her as an example. But correct, she was a beautiful woman who, like, magicked temporarily into a hag.
She was actually incredibly shallow.
She was a hottie in hag's clothing.
She so valued being a hot, evil queen that when she found out that there was a prettier person than her,
she
hagged up just
to take her down.
Just to take her down.
She hagged up to take her down.
Yeah.
Well, again, they are bad quite often. It seemed to be a 60-40 split.
Okay. All right.
So there's some cool hags out there, but most of them were like a scary hag.
And some of them, I'm sure, are good hags.
Covering all bases. Yeah. So that's it, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I had a great time, William. Thank you very much.
I had a great time. This was a true joy.
Yes.
I want to make the Hag Man.
Yeah.
The wise old man.
Hag Man.
Who's like, I may be old, but I also know stuff.
William, wait.
Yeah.
You should do a Beatles song parody. First, I thought, okay, you do the Hag Man instead of the Tax Man.
I already figured it out, yeah.
Then I realized why that, because it's too confusing. Just the Hat Man.
Just because it sounds...
Because I'm the Hat Man.
Yeah, I'm the Hat Man.
I come into your room at night. Hat Man. Yeah.
Wait a minute, why don't we do Batman? No, Hat Man.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Anyway, we're going to go now.
Much to do.
We're going to disappear. Yeah, we've much work to do. Thank you all so much for hanging out. We hope you had a good time.
Yes.
Feel free to send in more Hat Man stories.
Yeah, by all means.
I'm a big fan of Hat Man Crothers. Just another Shining reference.
Oh, I'm a big fan of that 90s song, Hat Man.
Oh boy, everybody.
Yep.
At GTTU Pod if you want to keep in touch. Patreon.com/GTTU Pod if you want to help support us and get access to the Netherworld Dispatch, which is going strong.
Oh, yeah.
There's been more horror news recently. We're stuck in horror news because it keeps coming out.
What are we to do?
Maybe on the Monday episode, you'll hear us talk about the new Saw trailer.
Maybe you definitely will.
Maybe you'll hear us talk about Scream 7.
You probably will, and we'll keep calling Scream 7 Saw 7.
I got very confused. So you can also follow us online.
I'm at Chillin' Kristen.
I'm at The Myth Traveler. So thank you again, everybody. Hope you have a great day, great night, great week. We'll be back with you again soon before you know it. But until that time comes, we must travel.
Back to the netherworld go we. Oh, yeah.
What would you fly in? Not a teacup. What would you fly in? Weird thing.
Let's see.
Just pick a weird thing.
Coffee cup spoon is my oar.
Love it.
Thank you. What about you?
Sitting in a chair, just sitting comfortably, but zooming through the sky.
Stationary, like we used to talk about Jewel,
Whoa!
our old dog.
Yeah, just
haunting us. Just
lying down, but lifting up off the ground and floating.
Just moving.
Yep.
Yeah.
Here I come.
Yeah.